way from Durban, we've got your guy, Mr. Muthu Murugan.
My name is Muthu Murugan, living in Durban. Car was done in a road called Tith Street. I've got no bras there. Everybody stays abreast from me. Even my landlord is milking me for rent. What happened, madam? Did I say something wrong? You can't beat women. They're wonderful people. I've always asked myself a question. Why when women have something precious, they keep it inside here? Ever asked yourself why? Because those are the only two suckers they can trust in life. So just remember. You know, when you look at this country, South Africa today, it's such a lovely feeling that we all could sit together and laugh with each other rather than laughing at each other. But if there's anything that's of concern to me, is the state of medical affairs in this country. If you go to a private hospital, you've got the money, you can pay the bill. If you go to a provincial hospital, you've got to have your own blankets, your own pillowcases, your own bed sheets before they admit you. And I decided to examine this. I mean, if you look at your previous Minister of Health, Dr. Zuma, the name itself will tell you zero understanding of medical affairs. And just recently, I was blessed with my second heart attack. Put into Chatsworth Hospital. When I came out of the ICU, they put me into the general ward. That's when I nearly died of my third heart attack, when they gave me my bill. And the nurse comes to me, she says, Mr. Murugan, tell me something. You're not married? You don't have a wife, you don't have no children, you have no brothers, no sisters, no mother, no father, plus you're unemployed. How the hell are you going to pay a bill of 38,000 rands? I said, hold it, nurse. I've got a sister. She's a nun, and she's a spinster. She says, you mustn't talk like that. Your sister is not a spinster. She's married to God. I said, then why are you complaining? Send the bill to my brother-in-law. So ladies and gentlemen, this is the amazing thing. I'm really worried. I mean, I was speaking to a couple of doctors. I love doctors because they've got a lot of patience in life. I mean, the last time a friend of mine went to a doctor, says, doctor, I got a soap stuck on my backside. He says, that's life, boy. And I remember when these four doctors were talking about who are the best people to examine. And one guy reckoned the best people in the world ever to examine are electricians. Asked him why. He says the body parts are color-coded. The other guy reckoned the best people to examine are accountants. They asked him why. He says because the body parts are numbered. The other guy says the best person to examine are librarians. They asked him why. He says, well, the organs are in alphabetical order. And the fourth doctor reckoned you can never beat examining a politician. Asked him why. He says those buggers got no guts, no heart, no spine, plus you can substitute the ass as a brains. So ladies and gentlemen, sex in public, people think you're rude. We never rude when we talk about sex. I remember when a 6-year-old child went up to his father, he says, Daddy, I had my first sexual experience. You know, any father is proud. He says, come son, sit down and tell me all about it. He reckon, I can't, Dad, my ass is still sore. So you gotta be careful. It's a lovely feeling to be in Capetown and able to entertain you wonderful people. But to say what you put into life is exactly what you get out of life. I mean, I remember when I was 18 years of age, stole my father's car, took a drive down the south coast, saw this big building called the Lido Hotel. I wanted to have 1 or 2 encouragements. I had about 18 or 20 encouragements. When I came out of the bar, I went for my car was missing. So I began to cry. The owner asked me, why are you crying? I said, I stole the car from my father, now somebody stole it from me. He says, where do you stay? I said, I stay in the south of Umhlanga in a place called Chatsworth. He says, how are you going to get back home? I said, I've got no money to pay for it. He says, don't worry, I'll help you, son. I said, how are you going to help me? He says, I'm going to give you a room to stay in. I said, I don't have money to pay for the room. He says, don't worry, you can share the room. I said, with whom? He said, with a married couple. I said, how nice. Where am I going to sleep? He said, under the bed. I said, overall view of what's going to happen that night. At exactly 12:30, he puts me under the bed. At 1:45, walks in this newly wedded couple, grabs his wife, takes her through the doorway, leaves her onto the bed, takes off his shoes. I'm under the bed thinking of my father's car, removes his coat, removes his tie, unbuttons his shirt, jumps under the bed, puts his hand under his wife's neck, looks into her face, and he says, darling, in your eyes, I can see the whole world. I came up from under the bed. I said, bro, please see if you can check my father's car too. So this is why you've got to be very, very wise when you get into these situations. But as I said, sex is not a bad topic. Sex is definitely not a bad topic. I mean, if you look at life, you've got to take care of yourself. I mean, look at the insurance companies today. Never insure yourself with Old Mutual. Why? Because they'll only cover you from the cradle to the grave. Never insure yourself with the African life. Why? Did I tell you why, sir? Because they'll only cover you from the womb to the tomb. Never cover yourself with commercial union. Why? Because they'll only cover you from the sperm to the worm. The best policy you can ever take is with Sandlam, because they'll cover you from an erection to resurrection. So don't forget that. See now, as the night is going, the wine bottles are getting short, you'll become spiritually uplifted, your laughs will be louder. You know, if there's anything in this country we're afraid of, what makes us different from a communist state? Everything is taxed. We work for the government. Do you agree with me, brother? Doesn't make. What school did you go to? Art school in Pretoria. Is it an Indian or a white school? It's a white school. Next time if you get a chance to go to school, go to an Indian school. Because when you ask a child like you, what is 1 + 1, he'll ask you whether we're buying or selling. So just remember, you've got to be very, very wise when you get this. If there's anybody we're afraid of, is the receiver of revenue. Do you agree with me? Receiver of revenue is at your door. Now they've got the scorpions. Now, I used to work for a synagogue when the receiver of revenue came to do an audit. And they looked at the books and they said to me, Mr. Murugan, I see you spend a lot of money on candles. What do you do with the waste candles when you finish? I said, we send it back to the wax factory. They recycle it. And this, in the end of the month, they send us one big candle. So you will notice for 1 month, we don't buy candles. Because turnover without profit is like eating soup with a fork. You'll stay busy but remain hungry. Then he says, what about the matches? I see you buy a lot of matches. What do you do with the waste matches? I said, we send it back to the Lion Matchbox Company. They recycle it and they send it back to us. You will notice 1 month, we don't buy matches. He says, just off the records. I know it's part of your culture to circumcise the men in your congregation. What do you do with the foreskin when you finish? I says, you know what we do? We collect them. When it comes into a nice lump sum, we send it to the receiver of revenue. That's when they send us one prick like you. So just remember, this is the... If you're not aware of the Indian culture, you know, Indian people tend to be very possessive over their daughters, especially if they're 16 or 18 years of age. And if they send the daughter out, the father will be waiting at the nightclub from about 8 o'clock to pick the child up. So I was performing at the Johannesburg Sun when one of the girls in the audience wanted to go out with me. I think she must have been blind. So when I went to take this girl out, the father looked at me, he says, you want to go out with a rubbish guy like this? You know what he'll do? He'll take you to a bloody dance, 8 o'clock he'll give you a drink, 10 o'clock another drink, 12 o'clock another drink, 1 o'clock he'll drive to one quiet spot, he'll jump on you, he'll bring disgrace to our family. I said, keep your daughter. 2 weeks later, this girl phoned me, I took her out. Father nearly died of a heart attack. I brought her back 4 o'clock in the morning. The first thing he asked his daughter, how did it go? She reckoned, just as you said, Daddy. He took me to the dance, Daddy. 8 o'clock he gave me a drink, Daddy. 10 o'clock another drink, Daddy. 12 o'clock another drink, Daddy. 1 o'clock he drove to this quiet spot, Daddy. But this time I was clever, Daddy. I thought of what you said, Daddy. I jumped on him, I said, let the disgrace go to his family. So this is why you got to be very, very wise when you get into these situations. You know, everybody has a dream. Everybody has a dream. I always wanted to work for a bank because I believe that is where the greatest interest in life lies. Never marry a banker, man. The moment he withdraws, you lose interest. And when I applied for this job, the guy looked at my qualifications, he looked at my efficiency level, he wanted to see how well I could expedite and coordinate matters. He says, young man, you got the job, but look at me and tell me what's wrong with me. When I looked at this manager, I see he got no years. I said, hey boss, you haven't got years. He booted me out. But we will never sell another guy out. So I told him, when you go in, don't tell the Lani he hasn't got years, you won't get the graph. So when he went in, the manager checked his qualifications, his efficiency level, how well he could expedite and coordinate matters, how well he could meet the productivity standards of the company. He says, young man, look at me and tell me what's wrong with me. He forgot about what I said. He looked at the manager and says, hey boss, you haven't got years. So they booted him out. So we told the third guy, don't tell the Lani he hasn't got years because you won't get the graph. So when he went in, the manager checked his qualifications, his efficiency level, how well he could expedite and coordinate matters, how well he could meet the productivity standards of the company. He says, young man, look at me and tell me what's wrong with me. He says, hey boss, you're wearing contact lens. The manager was shocked. He says, how do you know I'm wearing contact lens? He said, hey boss, if you had ears, you should be wearing glasses. So this is why you've got to be very, very wise when you get into these situations. Who would believe these things would happen? I mean, it's unbelievable. Look at education in this country. Education in this country has gone to the dogs. If anything is retrogressing progressively, is education. Do you agree with me, sir? There's a man agrees with me. I mean, the future of a nation lies in our minds of our children. The great Mark Twain said, don't let your formal schooling damage your education. And I remember when a superintendent walked into a Model C school, he wanted to test the quality of education. And he looked at the pupil in the corner, he says, hey, you young man, tell me who brought down the walls of Jericho? He's saying, hey, sir, I didn't do it. Disgusted. He looked at the teacher, he says, how can a child give me a response, lad? The teacher says, you know what, that is the best pupil in my class. If he told you he didn't do it, then he definitely didn't do it. He goes to the principal, he says, I asked the question, who brought down the walls of Jericho? This is the kind of response I got from the teacher. The principal says, you know what, that is the best teacher on my staff. If she told you the child didn't do it, then the child definitely didn't do it. Absolutely disgusted, he picks up the phone, he phones the Minister of Education. He says, Honorable Minister, I asked a question, who brought down the walls of Jericho? The child tells me he didn't do it. The teacher tells me he believes the child didn't do it. The principal tells me he believes the teacher that the child didn't do it. You know what the minister tells him? Shut your mouth and get 3 coats, put up a new wall, man. So ladies and gentlemen, this tell you where education has gone to.